surely to the sea. Darling, so it goes, that some things are meant to be. Take my hand, take my whole life too, 'cause I can't help falling in love with you.
Oh, yes, who can help but fall in love with Christiane Noll, ladies and gentlemen? And then I assume the video that people can't see, but we are playing the audio of, forgive the grammar, there's someone on the ukulele there. Is that a related person to you? Is that an offspring?
It's an offspring. That is my daughter. I guess she was 11 when we did that, and she just taught herself how to play the ukulele, so it was a little bit, but we were very proud of her. I couldn't believe it. She got on the camera and she did it, and she didn't freak out, and it was awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely. She should be learning klezmer, though. It's about time that you brought her into the marvelous world of klezmer music. Stop wasting your time on pop. You know?
Absolutely.
I mean, Elvis has been dead a very, 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 very long time. It's time to move on. There's the Yossi Piamenta Orchestra. You've got all sorts of things that you can. Avram Fried. These are the people you should be singing.
We have the weekend. We will dive into it.
Yeah, you should dive into it. Ladies
and gentlemen, we will dive into it.
So, you understand that word? With a name like Christiane Noll. Welcome, by the way. Shalom to you.
Shalom to you.
Do you know Jewishisms, and because you're in the theater, or do you know?
Here's what I know. My on my father's side of the family are Pennsylvania Dutch, and Deutsch, and Ach, wir haben verdammt steif. There's a lot of There's a lot.
This makes me think of Nazis. I'm scared now.
What? No. It's Low German. So there's a lot of Yiddishisms. It's very funny because it's all kind of tied together. So I don't not understand a lot.
This is good. There's a double negative construction there. I have to parse that Talmudically. I don't not. I'll do it later. Yeah. But by the way, let me mention, first of all, we're talking with a Tony nominee who was in Jekyll and Hyde. You were in such Broadway shows as The Revival of Ragtime. You were in Chaplin the Musical. You were, just I think up until the pandemic, you were in Dear Evan Hansen for a while. Plus, you saw her on TV. Remember when they started bringing back live TV musicals and they did The Sound of Music? You played music.
I was one of them. Yes, we did. That was the first one that they did when they were bringing back the live ones, in that sort of string of them. And I was Sister Margareta. So I was.
So how was it? Because now they've done like a dozen of them with everything from Christopher Walken as Captain Hook to some good ones. Can I ask you that when they were still figuring out what the heck to do, how chaotic was it, or did they really have a handle on it?
Well, no, I mean, they were figuring it out that first time. And we were in the rehearsal studio for a very long time, and we had it all mapped out in this big, huge studio. But then when and it was mapped out like a theatrical production. But then the film director, the person who was going to be responsible for shooting it, came in and was like, nope, can't shoot that. Nope, can't shoot that. And then we had to sort of change all of it in what we had spent weeks doing. Then we had to change it in a couple of days. And Lord love Carrie Underwood, because she never ran the whole show without stopping until we filmed it. And I dare any leading lady to do that.
So you're saying she didn't stop, or she went through the whole thing and then wait? No,
she never had the opportunity to run the show from beginning to end without stopping until we actually filmed it.
So every single rehearsal, at some point, the director would say, "No, we have to reset. We have to relight."
Right. Yes, it was always in pieces. She never knew what to expect in terms of this is how much time I have to breathe. I can, this is the time off. she never knew. So like she was really shot out of a cannon for anybody. And we were all just kind of on the fly going, okay, well, here we go. It's live, whatever this is. But it was really fun. And I was so pleased with what came out for what the endeavor was, because it was kind of a hodgepodge. Was it a musical? Was it a film? Was it TV? Was it a stage thing? Was it, it was all kind of mushy together. And I think they eventually kind of figured it out later on.
And that was so many people watched that Sound of Music that the TV network said, we should do this
again. We should do it again.
That's so wonderful that we have now these presentations of everything from Rent and all these other musicals that they've done. They still haven't done Chu Chem, which annoys me.
Yeah, why not?
And Zulu and the Zeta. Where is that show?
Where?
I mean, I haven't done Fiddler. I don't understand what, because Fiddler they actually ought to do, but maybe, yeah.
I like that I'm classy, Noll. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, good, because we were going to do that or Noll Coward, and they said, well, no, she won't.
I'm not. No, you can't be a coward in this business. You got to be.
You get stage fright. Do you ever?
No, I get where you think about that there's somebody out there that you want to be really extra special good for. And that's, then the nerves start happening, so that you start like doing things like, I'm going to be really good. And the minute that you do that, you are terrible. So that's what happens to me. I just, you have to sort of breathe and find your feet and kind of slow down. And
well, do you tell the stage managers before show, look, I don't want to know.
I don't want to know.
God is watching me right now in row 3, Just don't tell me. Don't let me know.
Yeah, but when you turn out, I remember Alec Baldwin, and then he has this really large face, like a big
Oh, I'm sure I'd be happy to hear you say that.
Like noggin, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't. We were doing a show. I think this was during Jekyll Hyde, and we were just sort of looking at him. We're like, oh, and there he is. Like he just was like, here's Alec Baldwin. Hello, but
yeah. Well, let me ask you: in all these shows that you've done, and I've just mentioned a few because you've also done a ton of regional theater, and in fact, you won a Connecticut Critic Circle Award for doing Mac and Mabel. I assume you were Mabel Normand.
And I also won one for Next to Normal.
Where do you display all your awards, by the way? Do you have them on a shelf? Do you keep them on the front lawn so the postman sees? No.
No, can I tell you, my Tony nomination is a certificate that is framed, and it is sort of back in the corner on the floor.
Well, because it's just a nomination. I know it's an honor to be nominated, but really.
What I will say here's in my well, I don't know if it's a defense. When I was living in New York City, I had a wall, I call my wall of fame, or my Broadway wall, and it was like this little hallway, and floor to ceiling. It was every show poster I'd ever worked on, everything signed, a lot of memorabilia, nominations, things like. So I devoted it to that. But this was my apartment that was just for me. So I felt like I could do that. So the minute that I got married, and certainly when I brought in a child, all of those posters are still in the moving box up in my attic. Like I just was like, this is our house, and I didn't want to make a shrine, to my life or whatever.
You don't get an office? Are you living in a house now? Are you living in an apartment? Where are you?
I live in a house, but it's a kind of it's a small house. It's a lovely house, but we decided to devote spaces to other things.
Because I have a very, very, very tiny house, and yet 3 of the rooms are shrines to me.
Well, that if you don't love yourself, who's going to love you?
What great advice from Christiane Noll. By the way, I should mention the reason we are talking to her today is not just because she's adorable and wonderful and funny and all those kinds of things. It is because, wait, what am I pushing here? I'm pushing that from May 9th through May 30th, TheaterWorks Hartford and the Goodspeed Musicals are combining to present a show, a cabaret show, that you are doing now. This is live or stream or both?
It is stream. It's another weird hodgepodge, interestingly enough. And we shot it a couple of weeks ago. They're editing it now. And each song is presented and filmed from multiple angles. We had all sorts of cameras. We were at Theater Works in that gorgeous, recently renovated space. It's beautiful. But the band were actually on platforms in the audience. So we had the cello was over on house right, and then the horn player and the guitar player was in the center, and drum island was over on house left, and the piano was with me on the platform, as was the bass player. So
kazoo in the balcony, always kazoo.
Always in the balcony. And so we did that, and were able to sort of film live versions, but also with all sorts of cool angles and stuff. But then when you go to a cabaret, there's always patter, but we decided, which I was like, oh, this feels weird without it being a person to talk to. So we decided to make them more like confessionals, and we filmed that over at the Goodspeed Opera House, in there, me sitting in the seats and perched in different places, and I actually having a one-on-one conversation with the camera, as being that person. So.
I'm sorry, I have to do this right now. I know it won't work. I know it's terrible, but I have to say this right now. Do you know who has the Goodspeed Opera House? East Haddam.
East Haddam had it. Yes, East Haddam had it. I got it.
They have Goodspeed musicals, by the way. They're called something else, but they're still Goodspeed and Hartford. Excuse me. Pardon me, Hartford. My voice is normally this way, but I tell people to excuse me anyway. It is called, I should mention, it's called Coming Alive Again is the name of the piece that you are doing or have done that they're cutting now.
We stole the title from a lyric in Jerry Herman. I want to feel my heart coming alive again.
Is that Mame or is that Hello Dolly? Which one is that?
Hello Dolly.
And that's from Dolly. Because it's interesting. We have later on, just by sheer coincidence, we have later in this program talking to Dave and playing the trivia game, Jason Gra, who is doing a Jerry Herman. What?
Really?
Yeah, Jason Gra. You know him.
Jason, we sang together and we've performed together, and I adore him. And I'm sorry I'm not sharing the screen with him.
You could have played the game yourself, but no, you're too busy. No, they're editing your stuff. Ooh, kidding, just teasing. But you can go to twhartford.org. Not you can go. Well, anybody can go there, but you want audiences to go there.
Hartford. Yep.
.org to watch.
.org, yeah.
So what are some of the other songs that you'll be doing in Coming Alive Again?
We do a whole slew of things from Follies. So Don't Look at Me and Losing My Mind. We do, I do Back to Before. We'll see if that makes the cut. We're doing Move On from
Sunday in the Park, right?
In the Park. Yeah. We're doing... we did Days and Days from Fun Home. We did Not Getting Married Today from
Company, of course.
Yeah. We did. We actually incorporated something from Jagged Little Pill, the new song that they wrote for that called "Smiling," which is quite something. We did from Bridges Over Madison County, "Build a Home." We did a Revolutionary Costume from Grey Gardens.
Yes. See, I know these things. I don't know why God is telling he's whispering, Rabbi, impress Christiane Noll. Tell her that. Oh, Grey Gardens. It comes from heavens. Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a marvelous.
There's a whole lots of different things, but it was all done and under the auspices of what I've been going through, and what probably many of us have been going through over this past year, being and how I reacted to being locked away, to being
how did you react?
My entire my livelihood being shut down. I mean, it's a lot of people pivoted and some got really creative and figured out how to use this medium to the utmost. And they just were like, okay, this was what is that quote? Is it Churchill? Don't let a good tragedy go to waste, not tragedy, something like that. But I kind of didn't do that. I mean, I was really, I kind of shut down a bit, and I looked at this whole pandemic and just thinking, okay, the theater's done. So, and I'm of a certain age. So when it comes back, will there be a place for me? And there's a lot of things, and kind of going, well, do I try to create something? Do I try to put something online? And some people you could tell, like the ones that really organically had something to say, those when you tuned in to watch stuff, it was like, oh, like Rob McClure has so many wonderful, amazing things to say.
Speaking of Chaplin, yeah.
Speaking of Chaplin, I mean, anytime that he decided to put anything out there, it was so smart and funny and heart wrenching, and it was just beautiful. And I was like, I have nothing to say, like at this point. So I should just keep my mouth shut because I have nothing to say. Like because you could tell, like, oh, well, some people were trying to put things out to be relevant, and to.
And that. No, but also you have people like Eric Comstock and Barbara Fasano, who are cabaret people, and they would just post a song almost every day on YouTube. Just, hey, we're going to do a song for you, cabaret, do it,
Which is awesome. I'm like, that's amazing. And if creative people want to create, and I found myself going, I don't want to do anything. I kind of wanted to use the time to sort of disappear and maybe heal. I just been doing Dear Evan Hansen for a year and a half, and I played one of the moms and the one that is basically crying for 3 hours, and that really kind of ripped me up for a bit. I was surprised how it really took it out of me. You think, oh, you leave the theater at the theater, don't bring it at home, but that kind of emotion really can exhaust you. And so when the close down happened, I was like, whew, okay, I get to rest for a bit, because I needed to sleep and just kind of heal a little bit. And then when I came out of that, I was like, oh, wait a minute, we're still here. And
we're still here. Do you do that song?
I bet we talked about that. I should have, like, I'm still here, or I survived, or any of those things. So we kind of had been working on a number of different shows, or different versions of this, and so we rewrote it and kind of contorted it as we did a version of it early on, and the things that we selected when I was sort of feeling sort of desperate and not ready to come out of my shell showed itself back in October, and now we sort of have the light in the end of the tunnel, and this is the next evolution of that. We're feeling more optimistic and full of hope.
Well, speaking of optimistic and full of hope, what else is, you have an agent, are you getting now calls to be like, well, this will be happening 2022, you should audition for this, or someone's asking you to do this, Law and Order, or whatever, what's happening?
Film and TV hasn't really stopped all that much. And so thankfully, which I did it here and there, little bits here and there, but I've had a number of at least inquiries and auditions and stuff like that. But, there are a lot of people now who are trying to, get these little spots. So just being asked, it's like, here's a self-tape to, please audition. I'm like, oh, yay, great. Okay, I'll book one of them eventually. That's great. But I had done a lot of symphony concerts, and those also shut down.
But they must be coming back sooner than some of the other things, no?
Slowly. There's a wonderful orchestra, Southwest Florida Symphony, that they never really stopped because they took it really seriously, and they were like, okay, rather than. And I think the ones that were the most successful during all of this are those people that, rather than just going, nope, that's not going to work. Nope, not going to like it. Nope, don't. They were like, okay, here are what we have, what we can't do, but what can we do? And how can we figure this out? And they definitely did that. Theater Works up in Hartford is an organization that did try to figure out, how can we make this work? And then they ended up doing a play a month for the entire. They produced it and shot it, and they're like, we're going to do this, and they did. So Southwest Florida Symphony called me a couple of times. So I did one in February. I have a couple of concerts now, exactly you said, in 2022 that are on the books for 2022, which is great. I've been teaching a lot. I know Broadway. We got our first little email referring to the future of Dear Evan Hansen. So that is now looking like they're okay. We can at least say, yeah, we would like to be going back into rehearsal by this, around this time and start performances by this time. But
So you want to go back into Evan Hansen, even though it took a lot out of you.
well, now that I've rested, I think I can, and I had done it on the road for a year, and then I went immediately into the Broadway company without a break for another 5 months. So I feel like I have some perspective, and I could go back and do it for a little bit with fresh eyes and fresh heart and everything.
Let me ask also, and I ask this question of men and women too, but people think, oh, it's kind of a sexisty question. But you're a wife and a mom, right?
Yeah.
So you're married, you got but you go on the road for months at a time. How do you do with them? Is your husband in the biz? Does he is he a lawyer or something? What does he do?
No, he's also an actor, and this was a team effort. And when they first inquired about my interest in going on the road was quite a while ago, right around Tony time for Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway. They knew that they were eventually going to do a tour, and so they're like, "Would she, do the tour?" I'm like, "No, absolutely not. I'm not. I'm not leaving my family. I'm not leaving my husband. I'm not doing all of my child. I'm not doing it." And then they called again months later. We'd really like to at least have her think about being considered. It's like not an offer, but would you think about it? And and then my husband was like, now hold it. They're asking a second time. So when an opportunity presents itself, let's think about this and let's actually meet them and see what it is they're talking about. And once the decision was made, we talked about it with each other and with my daughter, and we made the idea that I would either come home or they would come out to see me every 2 to 4 weeks, and that was just going to be, and it was, if I ever did that again, it would be 2 weeks, no question, because just too difficult. Otherwise, the 4 weeks was terrible. 3 was okay, but 2 is better because you're like, okay, see you next. It just.
And 1 week is too often. 1 week you see your husband, you go, oh, not you again. Well, I need a little more time.
That's a little cost prohibitive. I mean, I know you can go down to Florida now for like $25 on the airplane, but at the time it was like, oh, okay, how can we do this? But it was definitely worth it and necessary, and you have to take the opportunities where they come. And thank God my husband was willing to kind of put all of his stuff on hold. And so he was, took care of everything here and ran her where she needed to be. Because if we were both working, if I was gone and he was gone, because we've been really lucky in being able to sort of tag team. It's like, okay, my turn, okay, your turn, and really haven't overlapped all that much. Thankfully, that's the benefit of being self-employed. You can kind of decide when you're diving and when you're not. But this has been a really amazing opportunity for us. So I was really.
And your daughter never missed a ukulele lesson, which is a very
self-taught.
Oh my goodness!
Self-taught. Yeah.
Let me ask you. Let's roll it back. Both your parents were in the showbiz, if you will. Did that make it a fait accompli that CHRISTIANE NOLL would be, doing what he does?
As much as I tried to fight it, because I was on stage with them when I was 4, because it was easier than getting a babysitter. They just threw me in the show, or I would turn pages, or I would shadow the stage manager, or whatever. There was any number of things that they gave me to do backstage and in and around, because they were doing more opera and operetta. But so I understood the what you needed to do, the work ethic, the discipline, how hard it was, how brilliantly talented you could be, how up and down. Sometimes you're working, sometimes you're not. I lived that. So I was like, nah, I don't know. I was going to go and, be a computer programmer or something like that, because I was really good at math and I was more interested in that. But I had some amazing teachers that because that recognized. I think my seventh grade teacher was the first one. He would get all the talented kids, and then he would do a show. That was sort of his thing. And so he created this seventh grade show around me and sort of said, nope, you're doing it. And I always sang in the choruses. And when I got to high school, my choral teacher was like, no, you're going to audition for county chorus and all region. And oh, look, all state, because you got that. And oh, all regional up for like district or the whole, and all national and all of this stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll do. And same thing in high school with the musicals and the plays. And people were sort of saying, no, this is we're doing this for you. And I started realizing, oh, this is kind of what I do. And kind of what you said, fait accompli, is like being raised in the circus. When you're raised on a trapeze, guess what? You're probably going to be a trapeze artist.
Or a swinger. But comedy right there. So let me flip it right, since all these teachers were so acknowledging and wonderful of you. Now you're a teacher. What do you do? I assume you teach voice. What do you most try to get across to your students? What do they come to you needing, and what do you give them?
I do voice and also acting coaching and performing through song and stuff like that. I love doing. I have a few students that I deal with one-on-one on a regular basis, like with vocal technique and all of that. But I love doing master classes where you get to work with a bunch of people, so that you're working one-on-one, but you're also having a dialogue with the people watching, so that the people watching are getting about as much out of it as the person, or sometimes more than the person that you're asking them to do. And what I leave all of my students with is the idea to surprise themselves, to be pliable, to not have things sort of pre-planned, to be prepared to figure out how to drive this instrument. If it's vocally, then there's no style is one thing, but making good sounds is something else. I just did one of these classes yesterday, and 4 people did songs, someone else did a monologue. But it was really amazing. Get back on the story, look at the lyric, figure out what it is that you're trying to convey. And that it's always a dialogue, even if it's the little weird voice inside your head, that you're having.
That. Yes.
Yeah, you're having a conversation with. But to always surprise yourself. That's what's exciting, and it's really more compelling as an audience member to watch somebody figure out what it is they're going to say next and not really know. And I think as a young performer, you go, oh, I'm going to, this is how I do this, or I'm going to sing this note, and oh, it's really high. And then you can sort of tell on their face, and they just sort of doing it, as opposed to, these are sounds and words that have to come out of your mouth. So what makes it significant to you that these words are coming out of your mouth at this moment in time? And if you have to tell yourself a story to tease yourself, or if you're reliving a memory, or if it's really personal, but whatever it is, it has to be personal. Even if you're portraying another character, it still has to come out of your mouth. So we work on that kind of thing, and it's really it's fun, even for people who aren't necessarily going to do it for living. To learn that kind of communication and that kind of vulnerability and that kind of spontaneity is really exciting to watch, and I love it.
I asked the question, but people don't necessarily understand. By the time they get to you, they can sing. They can probably sing very beautifully. So when you teach it, you can't just teach it. If you're an opera singer, you learn, I guess, certain throat and vocal and head voice, chest voice, tuchus voice. I've taken.
Tuchus voice is very important. You got to sing from your tuchus. That's important.
I do several times.
The best support is down there.
That's like the bellows. Fill the bellows with air, and then push it out. Anyway, but where was I going with it? But to realize that you're being what you're singing, not just creating notes. That's a huge.
Because, pretty sounds. Okay, pretty sounds are lovely, but even we're given the gift as musicians or actors or both, because it's necessary. All of a good composer, you get a good piece of music, you know exactly what is going on in that music, whether there's words or not. You listen to Yo-Yo Ma play the cello. you know what he's feeling, you know what he's mourning. There's a wonderful TED talk of the gentleman who, gosh, what symphony was he the head of? And I'm not going to remember, but he talks about one buttock playing because he's a pianist, and he would sit there and get his entire body into it. He wouldn't just sort of go deep, 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 deep. He would move his whole body, and he played that dum 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 dum. It's a piano thing. We've all heard it, but he said, I want you to think of someone you've lost, and I want you to hold them in your memory. And now I'm going to play this. And because he talked about, here's this piece. Now, here's this note. I'm going to play this note. But the one that makes it sad because it's going, but then we have to go back to that note again. And we're not really sure. And all of that. And then when he played it from that perspective of having someone that you've lost. Everyone in the audience was just weeping. And that's the power of music and expression. And
please, when I sing, everybody in the audience weeps as well. Nothing misery they do. Now, speaking of memories, speaking of things that you remember, what do you have one favorite moment of being on stage? One favorite night in some show that was just a culmination of what you do and who you are?
I will say the first thing that popped into my head, I'm sure there are many of them, and I hate those favorite things because I'm a Libra, so I'm always like, oh, I could be this, oh, it could be that, oh, I can't make a decision. They're all so good. I don't play favorites. But the first one thing that popped in my head when you said that, Skitch Henderson was the
Tonight Show guy, wasn't he?
Huh?
Wasn't he the Tonight Show guy for a while?
I think he was he was a conductor for the New York Pops. He probably, I think he had something to do with the Tonight Show. He was quite prolific at what he did for a very long time. But the last Pops performance that he had before he died was conducting a concert that I was featured in, and he decided, and it was my Carnegie Hall debut. And he decided that he wanted to start the concert with me dressed in an usher outfit, wandering, or maybe it was not an usher, one of the cleaning staff that they have there, sort of doing a Carol Burnett, walking out onto the stage, on a darkened stage, looking around at Carnegie Hall and sing a cappella, "There's No Business Like Show Business." And I was like, okay. Like, I didn't understand why, but I was like, I went with it. And Carnegie Hall debut, and sitting there, I mean, it just was one of those magical New York theater performer actor moments. Like, this is the most surreal, and I will remember this for the rest of my life. This is amazing. Yeah.
By the way, how do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Practice, practice, practice.
No, it's the A train. You go to 57th Street. What the hell's wrong with you? But anywho.
PNR? Isn't that closer?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. You gotta walk a couple extra long blocks if you take the A train.
Let me remind people, I hope we have a few more minutes with you, Christiane.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yay. Because we have a few more questions, but I want to remind again, speaking of memory, that you can see her and watch her do what she does so beautifully by going to twhartford.org to see Christiane Noll in Coming Alive Again.
You can buy a ticket, and the stream will be available once you activate your ticket. You will be available you can buy it and just not activate it. So when you're ready to watch, it will be available to you then for 72 hours, I believe. I hope, Freddie, I hope that's right. But you activate it and then it'll be ready for you to watch. But and if you want to watch it again with other people and say, oh, this was really good, then you buy another ticket. Reactivate it. But you have the opportunity to do that from it's the 9th through the 30th, is that correct?
May 9th through May 30th at twhartford.org. It's $25 a ticket, steal, a bargain.
Well, and also supporting an amazing organization that is Theater Works Hartford, that has been bringing incredible theater and art to all of the subscribers, still throughout this pandemic. extended the most recent play that they were doing, and which I watched, which was amazing. It was really, really good. They do tremendous work there, and I am a big fan of their organization. So I was thrilled to be able to. Rob Ruggiero runs a lovely ship over there, so I was glad to be invited. That's where I did Next to Normal.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I have my association with them, and then obviously Mac and Mabel is where it was at Goodspeed. So both of these organizations are co-producing this event.
What is the funniest, weirdest, most ridiculous thing that ever happened to you in performing?
Oh, getting to perform with Jason Gra.
Because it's just so delightful and fun and funny. I get that.
Yeah, it's so delightful and fun and funny. I am known. I used to have a steel trap. I would know my lines and everybody else's, and I was a real pain in the butt, and I was really great that way. And the minute that I had a child, it was like a sieve. Everything just fell out, and now I'm cute and funny and stupid because I can't remember anything anymore. So, but my mouth still moves. So sometimes words will just come out of my mouth, and then I hear myself saying things, even though I'm in it. I'm not going on autopilot. I know what I'm saying, and I will start to just make up stuff and try to make sure it rhymes and still make sure that it's part of the play. And then get back on, and the people will be like, "What is she doing?" My coworkers, but they know the story's still going to get told. It's just not going to be quite what was written.
So did that happen in Hansen a couple of times?
Yeah, that's happened in Hansen. That's happened a lot.
Did you break your arm? Did you do yourself harm? Harm. Yeah.
Oh, if I went to the farm, I'm not really sure.
No cause for alarm. Yeah.
I find it alarming how. Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah. Now let's go dark. Let's go dark and deep just for a moment, because one of the big stories.
Dark.
Not only did we have to deal with the pandemic for a whole year and all that horror and misery, this is also when all the theater companies and the Broadway producers are doing a reset, not just in terms of inviting more people of color and different backgrounds, but in terms of the way they're treated. Do you have any stories either directly about Scott Rudin or that actress, I think it was Karen Olivo, quit, and she wasn't even in a Rudin show. She's just like, "Oh, I've taken too much crap from people. I'm quitting, because I can." And all these young actors who can't. So, you don't have to mention names.
I've never worked with Scott Rudin. Every interview that I ever heard and people discussing a show or a movie or a project that he did, always, no matter who it was, even the people that were the most positive people, there would always be a tone of something that was never necessarily identifiable as, oh, and he was a real horse's ass or whatever. I mean, but there was always something that I kind of was like, gosh, he doesn't sound like a very nice person. But this business, it's commercial theater. It's commercial. That first, it's money making. So when Hollywood decided to get involved, because they weren't necessarily for the longest time, they were like, oh wait, Wicked made a lot of money, and still makes a lot of money. So you mean if we put maybe the coffee budget off of a film, we could put that and produce a Broadway show, and then if it works, it stands to make a whole great, because it's a money making venture. And unfortunately, I mean, we had Harvey Weinstein came in with, Finding Neverland, kicked out. My husband was a part of Motown, and they were one of the five shows that were making over $1 million a week, which is, they were making money. That was not even sort of making money, but he wanted their theater, so he kicked them out, because I guess he bought it, or they were like, well, it's Harvey Weinstein, and obviously we know the stories that accompany him as well. So, it's a really difficult position to be in. Karen Olivo, Lord love her, because she's, like she said, I'm in a position So I'm going to make a statement. And if more people made those statements, then changes would have to be made. And I think that's what's going on right now.
Are we waiting for another shoe to drop? Is there someone that you've heard about that in a year or two, finally you say, that person did, I've heard from here and here and here.
I'm not going to be very helpful because what I will talk about in this kind of thing is, and it's because I have not had firsthand knowledge or even secondhand. I hate to say that like I'm above all that. That's not what I don't mean to say that way. But as we have been talking about how people are treated and all of that kind of stuff, a lot of it is accompanying the notion of I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want people to think I was being difficult, or I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings, or I didn't want to do whatever. And whether that is my privilege or how I was raised or whatever, I have always spoken up. In terms of in terms of how I was being mistreated, or if I saw someone else,
Well, can you tell, without naming names, can you tell a story of when this happened to you or something you witnessed where you're like, stop that?
Well, like if there had been someone's like, well, women would, when we were having the Me Too movement a while, and people would be like, oh my gosh, I had it, with so and so and so and so and all those kind of things. I'm like, no one has ever hit on me. Or if they did, I emasculated them before it became an option for me. Like I wouldn't even have a whiff of it, because if I noticed anyone sort of doing that, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like I would laugh at it. Like, what is wrong with you? Or like, so people would never put me in that position. I was not, and that's to my credit or to my detriment, depending on how this business works. Like some people in power will want to surround themselves with people they can manipulate. And if I'm not someone that can be manipulated that way, or that I, would be like, no, I don't like this, or I don't understand this, or, rather than just going, oh, okay, I'll figure it out, it's all right, then I may be someone that you want to work with, or I may not be someone you want to work with. So I've been really fortunate that the people have chosen to work with me, take all of me, all of my ideas and all of my, I don't understand that. Oh, or whatever.
Yeah, I've always been asked to be on the praying couch in some various rabbis' houses, and I always was like, no, thank you. I brought Entenmann's cake. We'll have that, but
we'll have that instead. Yeah, but for a while I was like, well, maybe I'm not, desirable. No one's ever hit on me. Like, I don't understand. But then that's sort of silly, because you go, no, obviously there's a way that I'm walking in the world that is, and I'm not victim shaming either, because that's, that's not what I'm saying. I don't know what it is specifically to be. I believe I have infused my daughter with it. I hope so. She has a little more grace perhaps than I do accompanying it, but I feel like that was like the next step. It's for people who have been put in a position where they do not feel like they can be authentically themselves without being attacked or being side-eyed or being put, being given a lesser opportunity or whatever. I mean, whether that's, the Jewish community has had to deal with that for, millennia. The same with the hundreds and hundreds of years for the Black community. I mean, I hate the word BIPOC, because that's grouping everybody. If you say non-white people, I mean, there's that as well.
Yeah, I mean, BIPOC, it leaves out Hispanics, by the way, leaves out Asians and Eskimos. Those Eskimos, I feel so just always neglected, and they're always cold. I mean, so what a way to go through life.
Yeah, unless you get a good, you get the good whale blubber to like make it. I don't know, whatever.
I don't even know where we're going there. Let's move on to a different topic, because we have a few more minutes, I hope, with the delightful, the lovely Christiane Noll. First of all, I do, every time I say your name as a Jew, I hear the CHRIST. It makes me.
You want to say
Christian Noll. So, did you have any religious upbringing at all? Did you go to church? Did you go to synagogue? To
I
what?
I actually I went to Hebrew school and I went to catechism because I was not we were raised I guess we were raised music was our religion. That was our religion. And both my parents, when they were growing up, had churches that had incredible music programs. So they would go, so every summer I would go and be United Church of Christ in Fleetwood, Pennsylvania with my paternal grandparents, and then Southern Baptist with my maternal grandmother. But we never found a home, anything. We tried going to Riverside church over in at the big huge Presbyterian church over in New York City. Sometimes we would go in there because they had an amazing music program, but we never really formulated something. So I grew up in Bergen County, New Jersey, where you were either Catholic or you were Jewish. And so and all of my friends were then going to catechism or Hebrew school. So I asked to tag along because I wanted to learn about it, and they actually allowed me to go on a number of occasions. I was able to go to Hebrew school and I was able to go to catechism.
Oh, because I was waiting for, did the Hebrew school have a music program or something? Did they have?
No, because I was always when I was younger and would go to Sunday school and stuff, I was always asking why this, why that, what's this, what's that, doesn't make sense, what about this, and asking questions. And finally, I believe my mom said, you don't have to bring her back anymore because it was being disruptive. So I've always been spiritual in that. There are billions of people in this world who have billions of ways of expressing their faith, and so I'm curious about all of it because it's personal and unique to each and every person. And I don't want to be someone to say, okay, that's this, it's that. It's because it's unique and special to everybody. But I can't say that without being exposed to it. And so it was amazing. I got to do a show over in Thailand to go to the Buddhist temples in Thailand, a more devout nation it was amazing. The feeling in there was extraordinary. I sang in Jerusalem with the symphony over there, and I went to the wall, and oh my heavens, what wall? Yeah, but the energy in that city is extraordinary. So it's been an ongoing journey, I think, for me, of non-committal but open to everything.
Which you have to be as a performer, as an actor. Or in the improv thing, you never say no. It's like, yeah, you're a cactus. Okay, yeah. And what does a cactus say? Yes, I bet to everything.
In my own household, I mean, we say we go to church, and that we'll go out and go hiking, and we'll go out and be out in nature for the whole morning, for hours, and just breathe and listen and hear and hike and climb, and it feels like church. I mean, it is.
That's the difference. Jews don't hike. We cower.
Oh, no. I don't believe it.
The great outdoors is not so great for us. I can't. Privet allergy. It's nothing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's terrible. So, Christiane Noll, do you have a favorite all-time musical?
My favorite all-time music. I have a few. I loved Once on This Island. I remember that being a moment, which is Ahrens and Flaherty, who wrote Ragtime, so exciting to get to work with them firsthand. But I remember seeing that, hearing that, and just weeping. Again, music, expression, people, soulful, the storytelling, honesty. It was just like, oh, I just love that. Mama Will Provide, and she's just wailing to the heavens, and I'm like, this is awesome. I love this. So there was that. I remember going to see City of Angels for the first time, and I was really into, still love it, like Lambert Hendrickson Ross and Manhattan Transfer and all of that, vocalese.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And it started with, I was like, what? Like, there's a music. Were you kidding? I it's the only time I've ever been in the theater where I'm like, I want to do, oh, and that was the first big show I ever got out of college, happened to be that show. So I was like, I'm gonna do that, and I did.
Two words, by the way, if you don't know them already: Shuby Taylor.
Shuby Taylor. I will look that up.
Shuby Taylor. You must hear Shuby Taylor.
Okay.
I like that in the scat world.
And
but,
of course, like West Side Story is a masterpiece, and My Fair Lady is also stunning and amazing. So I mean, yeah.
And of course, you must have personal love for Jekyll and Hyde, because that was your real first ticket in. Did you see the revival that they did a few years? How do you watch a revival when you created the thing? Yeah.
I didn't go see it. I feel like was I even in town? I feel like I missed it, which is terrible. But yeah, I don't think I was even in to be able to see it. Jekyll and Hyde was the best of times and the worst of times. Anytime you do anything for like 4 or 5 years, it's going to be your life is going to be highs and lows and everything, because it became all encompassing. Because I did regional productions and pre-Broadway tour and the Broadway tour, and like there was just a lot in the development of it, and it was really amazing. And it was my first big responsibility where I was allowed to contribute. They were writing it, and then I would do something, and they're like, oh, let's add her into the, which was like, I was sort of spoiled in that regard. So it's like, rather than just being, okay, you're an actor, say the words, and that's it. Hit your mark, say the words. No, you don't have to have an opinion. You don't get to talk about it. But they were enlisting, I would do something, and what do you think of that? How's that feel? And then I was like, oh, I get to speak, which was opening up a can of worms for me. Like, oh, I get to give you what I think. Oh, fantastic. I get to have an opinion. So, I mean, that was amazing. And it was the experience with the fans on that show.
Oh, the Jackies. Remember the Jackies? Yes.
It was the first that called themselves something. It was the first time that really, that there was an organized fan group for a musical. And it was extraordinary experience to actually get out there and do something and have people screaming like you're at a rock concert. It's like, now that's sort of commonplace. With Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen certainly also falls into that, and Rent it was as well. But I mean, a lot of the shows, they end up with that kind of voracious fan base. But
what you also mentioned was the worst of times. Is it just because you got, after 4 or 5 years, you're like, okay, time to make the.
Well, there are gonna be moments of this is really fulfilling. There are gonna be moments of disappointment where things don't go the way you would hope that they would go. That was the first time I was getting reviewed by lots of places, and sometimes we were well received, sometimes we weren't, and it really didn't matter. The being involved with anything over a long period of time, that becomes family. You don't always a family in the best and the worst things. Sometimes your family feeds you and lifts you up and makes you feel wonderful, and other times your family kind of leaves you in a puddle in the corner. I mean, that's just part of it. So but you can't have one without the other. That is there. No experience.
If the show closes in 3 months, but if you go on for 4 or 5 years,
it's going but it becomes an incredible learning experience, and something that is filled with so much for you to take away with and take with you, that is necessary, that you don't learn in college, and you don't learn when you just do something for 3 months. How do you sustain something? How do you sustain relationships with everybody for that amount of time?
Oh, I wish I knew.
People coming in and out and all of that kind of stuff. It was incredible experience. But for me to say, oh, it was amazing, would be disingenuous, from beginning to end, because nothing is like that. There's always going to be, right?
No, I'm talking about, it's so great to hear the honesty there of, like, because actors will get on, oh, everybody was so perfect all the time.
I hate that. It's not true. And I know, I was probably as much of the source of any time I go anywhere. be realistic about how you are in the world and how you relate to other people. And it's a business, and same with anything else. I'm sure you have people that you've encountered over the course. Sometimes you get along with, sometimes you don't. You have misunderstandings.
I hate everybody. Literally, I dislike everyone I've ever met.
What?
It's
I don't like people either. It's like either.
Yeah, and I know it's not me.
I hate people. I hate people. I can't stand it. You drive me
No,
nuts.
well, I know we need to wrap up, but it's just
Yes,
such a delight
absolutely.
to talk to. Can I ask you one? Well, all right. Let me remind people though that if you go to twhartford.org, you can buy tickets for only $25. It supports Hartford. I think some of the money also would go to Goodspeed, wouldn't it?
And also, I believe you can go to the Goodspeed Musicals website as well. Yes, they're selling them both there.
You can pre-buy. It starts May 9th. It goes through May 30th. But wait till the show's over. But after the show's over, you can go on the website and buy tickets to see Christiane Noll coming alive again. Yeah. So, Christiane Noll, one last question before I let you go.
Yes.
You've done so many musicals over the years, so many shows over the years. Is there a role that, let's say over the next 5 years, if you had your druthers, if you had your dream role that you haven't played yet, you played pretty much almost all of them, is there like, oh, I want to play?
The show that this coming alive again, actually, the first incarnation was a song. We called it songs from shows Rob wants me to do. That was the director that I was.
Ruggiero, yeah.
Rob Ruggiero. And so I know a project I'd love to work with him on is Bridges Over Madison County. I would love to work on that. I would love to have the opportunity to do, I go back and forth. Do I want to do Desiree or do I want to do Madame Armfeld? Because I feel like my mentality is more of the old lady in A Little Night Music.
Well, you have time.
I'm not quite there yet, but I'm excited to get to her. For the longest time, I used to say, well, it hasn't been written yet because I always wanted to work on a new piece. But any number of Sondheim shows. I mean, when you come up as a young performer, Sondheim is just so it just gets all of your synapses firing as an actor and as a performer. Sometimes I think they're more fun for the people on stage than they are for the people in the audience, but I could be wrong about that. But any of them, I would love to do Dot. I don't know that I will get that opportunity. I think I may have passed that one. Sweeney Todd would be amazing, but
would that be a stretch? I don't, as a Mrs. Lovett, you're such a sweetie. Well, she's a sweetie in a way. Yeah.
Well, it would definitely be a different turn, and we had, and that's something that we discovered when it was like show. First, Rob was very, you can do anything. You should do this and this and this and this and this, and then I would dive into it. I'm like, see, I'm not really that. That's not really. I mean, yeah, I could do it. I could do my version of it, but it would have to be my version of it. And that might not be what you all are expecting. And sometimes that works. Sometimes you learn something new by putting a role into the package of something that is not what you're expecting. Then you're like, ooh, I got a whole, like I think when Bernadette Peters did Gypsy, people were like, oh, I don't know. But you learned a whole lot more about that character by her doing what that was coming at her. So that's what I love about live theater. And I love with revivals, they said, how do you look at a revival? With fresh eyes. You look at it as if you were reading it for the first time. And because like I said, it has to come out of your mouth. So what makes it unique to you and what can you bring to it?
Well, Christiane Noll has brought so much to us on this Shabbos morning. It remains for me, again, one more time, remind you, May 9th through May 30th, get tickets to see her online in Coming Alive Again, and then look for you have a website, right, where they can see you?
I do. I have a website, and I'm on Instagram and on Twitter, and yeah. But
follow Christiane Noll, see where she's going to be live in person at the end of the year in 2022, 23, 24, 27, 58.
Oh, wow.
I just want to thank you
And
so
much to you. Thank you so much.
and much continued success to you. Let's hear a little bit more of Christiane Noll with her daughter on the uke, finishing the song, Can't Help Falling in Love with Her. And shalom to you.
Shalom to you. Thank you.
Darling, so it goes that some things are